Hello again, everyone. Hi, this is Tony, the Selfcare Maven, saying hi again. Welcome to my page again. And today I'm going to be on a little bit of a rant again because today's topic, if you've been following me on Instagram, I have been discussing an ongoing rant and sometimes outright attacks on social platforms by vegans on people perceived as either not being vegan enough or not being vegans, period. And I just wanted to get in on that topic because ultimately, food is very personal, but food is also energy. It's how we nourish our bodies, how we heal our bodies, how we sustain life. And I feel like this ongoing debate about veganism versus non-veganism, it doesn't do anything for anybody. Now, you guys all know I am the Self-Care Maven. I'm a women's and self-care coach, and I'm all about eliminating dietary restrictions for the most part, because I don't believe that they're helpful. I don't believe that ultimately they do anything that's sustainable. Now, if you have health conditions where you're adhering to a special diet under the guidance of your dietitian and your your physician and healthcare team, that's one thing. But to buy into all of these fads about diet, what not to eat, all these kind of crazy restrictions, it just breeds unhealthy connections and associations with food. And it brings shame, and it also is a way in a lot of instances of disconnecting people from, their culture and really things that help to sustain life, that, grow community and things of that nature. Food is very personal. It is an intricate part of our culture for a lot of us, particularly people that are from non-Western cultures. And that's simply because a lot of what non-Western cultures traditionally have been very connected to their food sources. They know, by and large, in the past at least, were very connected to their sources of food. They had an inherent knowledge or a passing down of the knowledge and awareness and wisdom that comes with understanding your environment and interacting with your environment in a way that's healthy and that is sustainable. And in comes colonization and Western thinking and practices into a lot of these non-Western cultures, and you have a real disconnect and a real unhealthy breeding of unhealthy ways of food production that are rampant here in the West and have been colonizing the rest of the globe and destroying a lot of arable land and farmland. I know there is an ongoing movement in India, not just in India, but in other parts of the world where there's been a lot of pushback from, these mega corporations like Monsanto, where their GMO seeds, pesticides, herbicides, and colonization processes of seeds of, can you believe it? And so there's an ongoing, tension there. And so when you start adding in that other thing called veganism, I find that very, very problematic. And it's especially so when you have people on platforms that are supposed to be quote unquote professional platforms like LinkedIn for instance, that where you literally have people getting, very personal and making very personal attacks on other people about their position on veganism or to vegan or not to vegan, not me personally, but, just as an observer and someone who's in the health space anyway. I just don't, I just shake my head sometimes and I go, really, people, are we really doing this? Are we so out of touch with what's going on globally that we make these kind of silly arguments and turn ways of eating into religions and fanatical points? Because that's essentially what it has become. Literally, I was in a food and nutrition room on one of the social platforms, and there was literally this one guy like trolling the whole time, trolling speakers the whole time, talking about they need to be vegans, and veganism, is going to save the planet, and if you're not vegan, you're killing the planet. All this kind of crazy stuff, and he began to make, was devolving into actual personal attacks. And at the end of the day, what did that accomplish? It accomplished nothing. There are a lot of issues globally, especially globally, that are very complex and require multidisciplinary approaches in order for us to solve it. And that's not just at the global and national level, but that's also at the local and community level. And you literally have, social justice warriors, you have people that are really doing some innovative work and activism when it comes to food production, sustainable food production, giving people access to healthy food that nourishes and heals the body, that is not contaminated with pollutants or stripped of necessary nutrients simply because the soil is essentially dead. And we have people doing the work. And so when I see all these spurious arguments on social media and all this kind of, it's irritating, and it just puts me in the mood to come on here on my page here on YouTube and just give a rant, because bottom line, that is lazy thinking. It's not critical thinking at all. If you do your research, go to the NIH, National Institute of Health, the World Health Organization. There are a number of NGOs you can look up that deal with the issues, complex issues around sustainability, sustainable eating, sustainable food ways, vegan, even plant-based diets, and making comparisons between whole food diets. And that's what I'm a huge proponent of. I tell my clients the same thing. I don't believe in restrictions because they create unhealthy attachments and connections with food. They disassociate people from their environments, and it's a form of Western colonization. Especially if you're a non-Western person, you have internalized that disconnect from your culture by the demonizing of non-Western food practices. And for centuries, people have had a knowledge of the healthy foods, the nutrients in their foods, and they've prepared their foods according to their culture, according to their dietary needs, regionally, as well as their environmental needs. So when you get into these kind of arguments, that's why I have a problem with that. So I just wanted to come on and have a little discussion about that, because this is actually my debate part 2, because I went on Facebook and had this a live about that. I also went briefly live on Instagram about this conversation, as well as on the platform that I was speaking of earlier, which was Clubhouse, when it comes to this topic, because food is how we take in our energy that sustains, that heals, and helps our body systems optimize and do what needs to be done for the fine art of living. And basically, it also, for people that are trying to live a healthy life or trying to adopt a healthy lifestyle, say for instance, doctors and they themselves have come to an awareness that, hey, the way they're eating and living is just not healthy, and it's not sustainable, and ultimately it's going to shorten their lifespan. You have these kind of arguments. All they do is muddy the waters and cause confusion. Keep it simple. All this over proliferation of information that's not even helpful or based in real science and critical thinking is problematic. When you don't do deep thinking and you just run off the rails and turn, food for that matter, into a religion, how ridiculous is that? You have to ask yourself. And then you have people that are teetering on the edge of panic or fearful, don't know what to do, and they're looking for help. This is where I step in and say, okay, enough is enough. Let's keep it simple. Let's stick with the basis. You want whole foods. You want a variety of foods on your plates. And for me, that also includes, in some instances, animal protein, unless prohibited by your physician or your dietitian. You've got some other things going on as to why you need to be on a strict plant-based diet. That's a different thing. But by and large, we humans are omnivores, meaning we need to consume nutrients from a variety of food sectors, if you will. That means sometimes we need animal protein, we need non-vegan protein, sometimes minerals and things of that nature to optimize body functions. That is how we have adapted and continue to adapt, and that's why we remain on this planet, and we're not extinct as of yet, barring our impact on the climate with unhealthy and unsustainable ways of producing food, industrialization, the way we access energy, create energy, how we strip the environment of resources. Though that's a whole nother conversation. But when it comes to food, stick to the basics, stick local. I always advise clients, especially if accessing or resources, financial resources are an issue, and you have a budget constraint, stick to local and regional foods. The availability of the local animal and plant-based sources of nutrition within your community. Get to know your local farmers market, ask questions, get into the habit of connecting with people, asking people, hey, does this come from a local farm? I'm just curious. And by and large, when you come, from a position as someone who's just trying to learn and can make other human connections, a lot of these people, farmers, suppliers, they are very, very open, very helpful and informative. And that gives you education, and education is power. And it gives you the ability to make critical decisions that are evidence-based and will work in your best interest. Not saying you need to be some kind of PhD researcher. No, you don't. You just have to be somebody who, wants to, do what you can to connect with other people, learn about your food, learn where to get food that's healthy, that's grown responsibly and sustainably, that's not hurting the environment. These are questions, believe it or not, they want your local farmers and, gardeners. They're happy to share because they're passionate about food. A lot of them are passionate about their environment. I'm blessed to have a local heritage farm and local farmer not too far from me where I can, go. I've even asked questions because I'm a lover of honey, and thank God I have no allergies to honey of any type. And so I'll never forget, just walking into the store, sampling, this is pre-COVID, of course, sampling the different varieties of honey, and they were very quick to open up and share with me, the fact that their honey is, comes from bees that are not contaminated or, have not had any contact with pesticides or herbicides. And they just talked, they were so excited and passionate and happy to share that information and share how they source their honey, that their bees, and the type of flowers and, other plant life that their bees gather upon and, create this wonderful elixir known as honey from. And they show, they give tours and all of that, and they were sharing with me, and I was just asking a couple of questions, and I had a really great time connecting with my local farmer, getting tips on food preservation as well, and even gardening tips, and it was so much fun. And I even as I tell this story to you now, it was just an awesome experience. And that's the kind of experience we need to be having with our food in our communities. And that's the same kind of relationship you want to have with your environment. Okay, so let's cut out the stress. If you are buying food that's packaged, and you look on the package and it's got, you know, a bazillion of ingredients that you cannot pronounce, leave that on the shelf. And I'm talking about things as simple as bread. You know how many times I've had to put bread back on the shelf because the ingredients list was this long? Why? You know, and the reason why I can make that snap decision like that, my mom was a baker. And I'm a baker to a certain degree. I like to bake, you know, some, you know, favorite snacks and traditional snacks around the holidays and things of that nature. And so I know how to bake. So I know what the basic ingredients that goes into cookies, for example, that goes into bread. Some bread recipes are only like 4 ingredients. So why would I buy bread that's got 20 ingredients and 15 of them I don't even recognize or I can't even pronounce the name of? That's a problem. And you wonder why so many people have so many digestive issues, because all of these synthetic artificial ingredients disrupt the natural flow and energy of the digestive tract. They interfere with the natural gut bacteria and the, you know, gut biome, period. And that affects your nutrient uptake as well. You wonder why people have certain deficiencies when it comes to minerals and vitamins. It's things like that, eating those kind of foods. And so I, you know, by and large, stopped eating a lot of bread, a lot of baked goods, simply because you pick up the package and you see like 20 some ingredients again, and then again 15 to 16 ingredients you can't pronounce. So what do if you are a sane thinking person and you say, hey, I want to eat healthy, live healthy, and not have issues? I'll put it back on the shelf. And on top of that, I save money. So doing things, those are simple calculations you're able to make when you engage with your food providers, the people that supply, you know, that are part of the supply chain for, you know, getting your basic, you know, food items. And then also, you know, I already said you save money when you put that back on the shelf. And that's not to say everybody needs to be a bread baker. It just means that when you go to local bakeries, not big box stores, they tend to use, by and large, by definition, things that you would use in your kitchen. So that's the next best thing. Buy your bread from a local baker. Get to know your local baker. Get to know your local bakery. Get to know your local mom and pop bakery or restaurant that has a bakery in it and they sell to your communities. I live here in the Midwest, and in my region here in my town, there's actually a restaurant that's also a bakery that's been around for, wow, gosh, almost 100 years, and they use the same exact recipe. And if you ask them, you know, questions, they won't tell you the whole recipe, but they do share with you the fact that people know them for using natural ingredients. They don't use preservatives, and they don't use ingredients that have preservatives. But that only happens when you get to know the people that supply your food, part of that supply chain for you accessing food, you know, that you need in your homes. So those are just a few examples, you know, I thought I'd share. And, you know, bringing it back again to this whole vegan, non-vegan debate, that's the wrong question. If you're going to have a debate or an argument, that's the wrong argument. The real argument should be, why aren't we connecting with our environment and food in ways that are healthy and natural? Why don't we know where our food comes from? If you're someone who, you know, eats animal protein, your beef, your chicken, your fish, or whatever, it doesn't come from the grocery store. It's sourced from some other environment, processed and brought to the grocery store. Do you know how many people, how many kids don't know that chicken doesn't come from the grocery store? That is a question. And you should have the right answer. You only know what you don't know. And, you know, that's a problem, and that's something in this post-COVID era that we're living in now. And in a time when things are in upheaval, there's wars around the world that are on the uptick. You know what I'm talking about, the war in Ukraine. and what's going on between Russia and Ukraine and all of that, and how it's affecting this, the food supply chain in regions of Europe and even as far as Africa. And you get to see that these are complex issues. So those kind of useless arguments don't do anybody any good. They don't solve any problems. They just cause more division. And I've said it before, and I'll stand on my 10 toes and say it again. Get to know where your food comes from. If you're somebody who's saying, okay, I want to eat healthy, what do I do? Well, let me give you some basics of when you want to eat more whole foods. One, find out where your food comes from. Avoid foods that are pre-packaged and have an expiration date in the timeline of months to a year. Stay away from that stuff. It's okay to use some canned goods like tomato sauce and stuff like that, but you want to make sure that it's organic and it doesn't have any additives in it. And I can say that because I'm one of those people that read labels. Start reading labels. A big problem is people are outsourcing their self-care. You can't do that. People are outsourcing their own education when it comes to food, when it comes to resources, when it comes to their health and well-being. You can't outsource. You can't afford to outsource that anymore. It's killing you. So I just thought I'd share that too. Now you say, Tonya, what can I do? What are some basic things I can do? Basic thing you can do, stop listening to all these crazy arguments about vegan this, vegan that, and stop hopping on the latest fad diet. You don't need it. You want to be healthy. You want to eat well. You want to feel well. Make sure you get a medical check. If you don't have access to healthcare, conventional healthcare, there are community healthcare systems or healthcare community clinics that do give a sliding scale where they charge you based on your resources, what you have, what you can afford to pay, what you cannot pay. I know with this abortion ban in the US, that's really impacted a lot of those clinics. So that means you're going to have to do some more work, as in you're going to have to research some more, reach out online if you have the ability. Reach out online to some of these clinics to get resources, but a lot of these clinics have resources that are available even online. So if you want a list of things to avoid, you can go to my page at freedomatthecrossroads.com, and that is my own health and wellness site where I do have free community resources about things like avoiding pesticides in your food and stuff like that, where you can go, like the the Environmental Working Group. They have awesome resources on how to avoid pesticides or minimize pesticides exposure and herbicide exposure in your food and personal care items. And I do have a link provided that links to them too. So if you don't remember that, just go to freedomatthecrossroads.com. You can find that there. Or you can go to my IG page, Tonya Taria Health, on Instagram, and you can click on my link there. That'll take you to the blog, and you can get some information that way as well. But first and foremost, minimize processed foods that you take. I know, in a number of instances when people are trying to save money, they buy canned goods. Just make sure that if you're going to use canned, because there are some canned goods that do have good nutrition, relatively good nutrition, not as great as if it's fresh, but you do get healthy, nutritious foods that are available in canned or in glass jars, if you will, that have been preserved that way naturally with things like vinegar and other natural preservatives. You can do that. Make sure they're organic. You want to check for that seal, that non-GMO seal too. You want to check with that. Make sure that's on those containers. You want to avoid brands that are known for their GMO content, and those are products that are, I avoid anything that I know Monsanto has a hand in, that's in there, that goes to their tomato paste, especially their tomato sauces. Although me personally, because we do a lot of stews and soups with tomatoes and onions and stuff like that, where I'm from, I tend to make my own. But when I don't, I avoid brands that I know have been impacted by Monsanto. I avoid their stuff. I can't remember right off the top of my head. If you've got questions, I can get that to you. You just, shoot me a message online, and then I'll just, get that to you as soon as I can. It won't be right away, but I will get it to you, or, point you in the right link and get you that resource. But that's what you want to do. You want to go for natural. If you cannot get fresh organic, go for canned organic, go for frozen organic. If you say fresh organics are expensive, frozen organics work just as well. They're equally healthy. The point is, you want to minimize as much as possible your intake of contaminated foods with not just artificial ingredients, but pollutants like herbicides and pesticides. And that's why you want them organic. Next thing you want to do, you want to start batch cooking as well, preparing your foods in batches. I work in healthcare. I have clients online. I work in healthcare. I have clients online, so I tend to have a relatively busy schedule. So I'd like to do a lot of batch cooking, and then I supplement that for those days that I don't really want to eat something that I've all prepared, or I have a taste for something different. Then I will make something fresh. But by and large, I prep all of my meals for the week. And it is doable. You can still have variety even when you pre-prep your food. And you save money, because what you're doing, thinking involved in that. So you can do that. That saves you money, and that will keep you on track from a health perspective in terms of what you take in and what, et cetera, et cetera. Next thing, you want to have variety. Variety is awesome, and variety is a necessity when it comes to being healthy and eating a nutritious and full meal throughout the week. The best way to get all the nutrients that you need as much as possible, and you minimize having deficiencies of certain minerals and other nutrients, is by having color on your plate. So you have a variety of vegetables, you have a variety of fibers, carbohydrates, proteins that can take a number of forms, whether it's legumes like beans and things of that nature, or you have animal protein, or you're saying, okay, you're going to do vegan. Whatever is your jam, go with that. Just make sure you keep it, you switch it up. And variety is a spice of life, but variety is a necessity when it comes to human health. We thrive on variety. And that's why, I always emphasize that. And that's why I don't believe in restrictive diets. You want to have variety, because that increases your nutrient uptake, and it minimizes, instances of where you'll be exposed to pesticides. Because when you eat the same thing over and over and over again, and it's got the same level of contaminants and pollutants in it, guess what? You're building up more and more and more of those toxins in your body. So that's something to consider. Variety will save your life. It's not just a spice of life, it is a necessity. So we've gone through a couple of things, right? We said, keep it simple, stay away from unnecessary ingredients in your food, pre-prep your meal, make sure you have variety in your food stuff. So things like, you can have a variety when it comes to, your carb intake, like maybe one day you're having rice, another day you're having potatoes, and some in fiber and some other things. But the point of the matter is, all of these food types have different nutrients in different quantities, and so you want to when you increase the variety, you increase the likelihood of you not just getting the whole spectrum of what you need in terms of nutrition, but you also can minimize your exposure to pesticides, herbicides, other contaminants and pollutants in your food. That's one of the reasons why they don't want you to eat too much of certain types of fish, because of their tendency to have a high mercury content in them, which is also a pollutant, which is also a toxin, which it builds up and gets stored in the body and damages in that way, and some other nasties associated with mercury poisoning and exposure to mercury. That's why they say don't eat too much of certain fish, whereas when you kind of have a nice variety and spread out your intakes of types of fish, you get a safer balance. Not necessarily going to totally eliminate your exposure to toxins and things of that nature, but when you increase your spread, you diminish the potential for exposure. So I just wanted to share that with you and help you get rid of some of the overwhelm, and rant a little bit too about this whole issue of veganism versus non-veganism. It's an unnecessary argument, does not make sense to me, and it's lazy. It's it just really does a huge disservice to the global issues around food, access to food, and the way we think about food, and overall human nutritional health and wellness. It's problematic, and it really disturbs me a lot. So having said that, tune into my next episode, and stay tuned right here. Hit that notification button, make sure you subscribe, and send in some more questions if you've got more questions about self-care and healthy living. I'm always here, ready to share. As always, I've got a lot of things going on in the background. We're working on some things, retooling a few things, hopping onto IG. So make sure you follow me at Tonya Taria Health, Freedom at the Crossroads. And you can find me on IG, Twitter, and Clubhouse and Facebook. So till next time, stay blessed, stay well, eat local and whole.